COVID 8-packs.
Look, there's only 6 people on there.
It's a COVID 6-pack, dude. You got a social distance on that sucker. And it's also got a cover.
The bubble, yeah.
Not getting the bubble.
Yeah, yeah, I remember when Bailey's had the Vista Bond.
Robin, send me a better picture.
Everybody smelled like the one guy that was smoking pot.
Exactly, all the way
It's
up.
like, thanks a lot, buddy.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
The ones in Big Sky are really cool. The D-Line Doppelmayers. So they have Wi-Fi, they have the Recaro individualized seats. They're heated.
Have you seen the
And they have
laser?
the blue automatic bleed.
The laser that comes out of the top and bottom terminals
Yeah.
to show you where to go when you get on the thing? It's getting crazy. Next
They
thing,
just replaced the
Yeah.
6-pack, the
It's 4
6-shooter
o'clock.
with the
Would you like to go
main.
on the record?
He's back now. Yeah, let's call the meeting to order.
Recording in progress.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call for the record. Kevin Ricketson,
Here.
Bubba Davis,
Present.
Jackie Boyd,
Present.
Robin May,
Yep.
Santos Martinez,
Present.
and Chris Reed. We have a quorum. You may proceed.
Perfect, thank you very much. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Also move.
Second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Thank you.
I'll get you one.
Mr. Chairman, we don't have a report from your secretary to provide minutes
I
for the
know, I
September
was just
meeting.
gonna say, we don't have that, I haven't seen that. So we'll approve the agenda minus the minutes of September the 5th, 2024 special meeting. We'll need to get those from him so we can approve those. So I'd like to have somebody make the motion for the agenda, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, let's carry right on down to new business. Discussion and approval of amendment to zoning on a portion of lot 49 and 50 of the Merino Valley Land Third Subdivision. Entertain a motion to discuss this.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, so,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could try to get this on the screen. As you may be aware, the village is the village purchased a little over 4 acres behind Zeb's. It's got a panhandle that comes between Zeb's and the lumberyard to actually provide access easement to 434, and it loops back around. It's zone C1 today, and it's in the overlay. The village is looking at a number of vendors to provide homes delivered to set on the site. They were successful in securing funds from the state, I believe $2.4 million, to run the water and the sewer up on that easement to get to the property. And so the Workforce Housing Committee has had maybe 8 vendors that they've been screening, and they've gone through their first round and getting ready for a second round. There is a vendor that most of them are doing modular homes, which are built to International Building Code, but you also have a vendor that's a manufactured home, which is built to a HUD standard. What this request would allow is it does not remove it from the overlay, but in the event that the premier vendor is a manufactured home, manufactured homes are only permitted in an R6 zoning district. It has the same density allowance as the C1, 20 units to the acre. But the village is pretty explicit on new modulars, new manufactured homes, where they can go. And so what this request would do, if we could get, I think it's ZA1, the site plan, and it's probably at the top. Just to give a reference of where the property is. Yes. So you notice the panhandle that goes in front is on top of Zeb's. That's where the water and the sewer would come in. It'd go to the west and then it would come down. There's a preliminary design on the wall over here with a work schedule where the village is trying to get homes installed this year. to get people housed this year. It's a very aggressive timeline. I think people are working pretty quickly to go through these vendors, see who can actually make a deliverable on units this year. Some vendors are, oh, it takes us 9 months to make a house. Well, we're probably not gonna talk to you right now. But there is a sketch that our on-call engineer surveyor has prepared with a cul-de-sac that would come down the main portion of the property. And so this request would be to just convert it from a C1 to an R6. You still have the overlay on top of it. But that's the ask, is that in the event that that vendor is chosen, we would have property that would be allowed for manufactured home. If the village chooses a vendor that does modular homes, it's still allowed on the property. You know, a modular home is allowed in any of the districts. It's just the other way around, we can't put a
So
manufactured.
manufactured, we're talking yoke and axle,
Correct,
right?
correct.
Remove.
That, I think,
Permanent
that, I
foundation,
think, yeah, I think that's part of the conversation workforce housing is working at, yes.
And the title
But the
vacated.
fact is that it's a manufactured home, even if you take the tongue off, you take off the axles, it's still a manufactured unit.
Yeah.
And even if you set it on a permanent foundation, it's still a manufactured unit. So this,
How many vendors have modular units and how many, again?
so
just the
out of,
one?
out of the 6 that remain, 5 are modulars and 1 is manufactured.
Okay.
And so the village is looking at not just the deliverables, the financing that's available for it, and the cost for it too. So in order to keep the rents where they want to keep them for people to live in, that's why that other vendor is still part of the mix. So
How many
again,
units are we talking about total?
it's gonna be a blend of 1s, 2s, and maybe 3s, bedrooms. I think that's part of the reason why there was a survey that was out to employees, you know, what size unit would you prefer to move in? How much space do you need? Do you have pets? Do you not have pets?
The ask is to change the zoning
That's it,
to allow manufactured.
correct, correct.
Okay, that's, and the compelling rationale behind that is?
There may be a preferred vendor that's just a manufactured home provider,
Based on
the applications we have now.
on price?
Correct.
on
And
space?
the ability to
They have a
deliver.
matrix that they're working through, and I
Yeah.
think these are the ones that have made it through.
Being able to deliver this year is a big priority in it. The financing available to make sure it's within the allowable cost. There's a number of bases that they're touching to come up with a preferred selection. But we know that there's a vendor that's a manufactured home, and if that's the route the village goes, we'd rather just deal with this now in the event that they choose it. It doesn't preclude modulars from being selected.
It just adds.
It just adds for the one.
Okay. So we don't know how many units we're talking?
I think they're looking at 30 buildings.
Yeah, quite a few.
30 are laid out on that cul-de-sac plan. I don't know the mix, but there is a mix of
Right,
2s
one.
and 2s and 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1s and things like that.
Is there a minimum size for the units?
That depends on the vendor, how small they can go.
Is there a minimum size that we will?
I'm not sure, I'm sure there is, I'm not aware of it.
Okay. So we're looking at 30 units there, that's correct, kind of what I can see.
As it's zoned right now, you can take a modular unit.
Correct. You just can't put the manufacturer on it.
Okay.
So the thing for the manufacturer is speed and how fast they can get it here and. just-
All of them, all of the vendors are
I
putting
mean,
it.
that
yeah,
manufacturer would be able to get here faster than a modular probably.
Maybe. But that's
So that's,
something that is still ongoing, but we could see it on the horizon.
okay. Any questions?
I will say there was a vendor that does 3D concrete homes, 3D
Very
printing. But there were questions on the deliverables for time. How quickly can you start building? So,
There's a reason why it's pretty quick to build a manufactured house.
I grew up in one.
Yep.
Any other questions? Any comments from the peoples out there? Everybody happy, happy, happy? Okay, I'll call for a vote to make,
Wait, I did just think of something here.
Uh-oh.
So say we do rezone this for the mobile, and then they're not chosen, would we go back and remove that?
just to stop it in the future.
Well, just so that this isn't laying out there 10 years from now and somebody says, oh, hey, I can stick a mobile home right there and do that.
Well, the village is gonna be owning the dirt, so there'd have to be, it wouldn't be, hey, I've got a modular, a manufacturer I want a permit for. The landlord is the village, the dirt's still gonna belong to the village, that's why this is the village application on the property that they own. So you are always inclined to say, let's go back and make it a C1. We're keeping it in the overlay, I don't wanna touch that boundary.
No.
But yes, you could say, let's go back to a C1. I will say this, in the overlay, for cannabis retail, in the overlay, we say you have to be 300 feet from a residential district as opposed to a residential structure. Because it's a mix in the overlay, you can have residential and commercial on the same lot. So if this stays as an R6, then now there's a 300-foot buffer around it that you can't have cannabis retail sales.
But it'd be the same thing if it's all modular.
No, because if it was modular and it was a C1 district, that's different, because the district it's the zoning district, right? So with this request, we're going from a C1 to an R, that would generate a
Commercial
buffer
to a
around.
residential.
That's correct.
Yeah, so
Commercial
you're,
to residential.
we don't have a plot plan, and I don't expect one, this is but it does, it's germane to the conversation, that we understand what kind of landscaping and everything else would be surrounding this and what it's gonna look like,
And have the other people,
and how many units, blah, blah, blah.
and everybody around has been notified and all
They
that.
have, like I said, I've had one phone call, and it's the owner to the west, just, how does this, there's someone looking to buy my property? No, we're talking about the 4 acres to the east.
Okay.
So,
Would he have to share in that panhandle access?
that
Is that part of
panhandle,
his
Is an
discussion?
easement?
that panhandle is a 60-foot
Says
easement,
that he's landlocked other than that?
that's his accessibility to
Yeah,
the
so
street.
Okay, I was
so
just-
yeah,
And there's
that's-
another 15 acres adjacent to
So there's
that.
value added to his property with this going in?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Wasn't there supposed to be somebody building behind that at one point?
Yes,
And then this.
83 townhomes.
Okay, that's what I was thinking about, so.
And
There's a
that's-
question about the size of the sewer line and everything else.
Right.
Yes, and so we've actually tried to get that developer in contact. Hey, we're about to pull water and sewer. I mean, should we try to size this right, or how ready are you?
Right.
And the village is really ready to try to get some things moving and set. They're still off a bit, so.
Well, I will tell you that as much as I have been an advocate for workforce housing here for a very long time, and I have lived here for a very long time, and the slippery slope of precedent, et cetera, keeps me from voting in the affirmative for this, because I think at some point we need to hold a standard, and I don't care if it's the village or who it is, but I think a modular house is far more appropriate than a manufactured house in this case. So I will be voting no.
Fair enough. Any other comments? Okay, I will call for a vote to approve it. All in favor say aye. All not in favor say no.
No.
So we got unanimous 3 noes. Okay. Just as a side note, if this thing took out the manufactured homes and threw that completely away, would that change your opinion?
But it doesn't have
And we
to.
wouldn't,
Then we wouldn't have to vote
Yeah,
on this.
it's already that
So
way.
it's
The only
already-
reason-
right. But would it change, it wouldn't, I mean, everybody be good with that? I'm just, don't.
I support using this property for workforce
Okay,
housing.
that's what.
I
that's what
don't
want.
support having another mobile home park here slipped under the rug.
Copy.
And that's where I'm at too.
All right, perfect, that's,
And maybe it's
I
not
live
right now,
across-
but maybe 5 years from now,
right,
who knows?
who knows,
And
how many things happen?
And when the deed transferred on the one across the street from where I happen to live, this entity paid no attention and allowed that to, and they're still there on septic tanks. So, like 3 of them. So to me, it becomes a sensitive thing, it's not a personal thing to me, it's just, at some point, we need to take a step forward that's a positive, and I want these people that, in the workforce, to have a good quality experience and something that will
Exactly.
last.
So, okay, cool.
Not be pulled out in the middle of the night.
We'll move on to B, discussion and approval of a conditional use permit for 11 Halo Pines Terrace. I'll entertain a motion.
Also move.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, we'll open this up for discussions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, back in September, we had some amendments to our cannabis ordinance to consider the allowance of manufacturing. But the manufacturing allowance does not mirror the state of New Mexico. Because we wanted to make sure we did not provide any opportunity for somebody to use public water in the manufacturing that all of a sudden goes to cultivations. So our manufacturing allowances are restricted to repackaging, relabeling. You could do extractions with a hot plate. We don't allow high volatile chemicals for extraction. The state of New Mexico classifies manufacturing into 4 categories. We picked and chose out of those 4 to come up with this. So the application you have before you, I don't want folks to feel, oh, it's overall manufacturing. Angel Fire, within its discretion as a municipality, said manufacturing minus this. So today's application, the applicant grows cannabis on their farm in Colfax County, in Warner County, needs to be able to repackage it, relabel it. Our code says you could do that all completely enclosed, you can't do it outside. It's gonna be in the same facility that was approved for retail sales. And it's really for the packaging, relabeling, and then to sell, which would fall within our guidelines. I've had 1 letter of support, no questions, which is comparable to what we had the last time that this was considered, so.
It's legal in Mara County?
Yes. Yes. So when the state of New Mexico passed its cannabis ordinance,
They didn't want to do it in Mara County, they didn't want to do it here.
I think availability for land and water is probably more viable there.
But I mean, packaging it. Why doesn't it happen in Morris, since that's where it all is, instead of
It's, I
happening
think, part
here?
of facilities and things of that nature, that if I'm gonna package it and then sell it here, being able to have that allowance in the building that I have now is what they're asking to do. So, and the applicant's here as well.
Okay. So why would you not wanna just go ahead and do it in your place in Mora instead of doing it here?
So the situation is, the way that we sell our cannabis is a deli style, and essentially we weigh it out for how, let's say you walk in and you want 5 grams, we weigh it out right then and there, as opposed to having everything pre-packaged prior. And with doing it that way, we have to have a manufacturing license.
Okay.
So it's an easier process for us, and we don't have to sit there and say, okay, we have to make, 500 1-gram packages, or, another 300, 3.5.
So it's
Make them all 1
inventory.
gram packages and sell 5 of them, you got your 5.
Yeah, then I'm losing profit on the packaging.
But
Raise your price.
this is better to inventory and it's more efficient.
Yeah, it's a lot more efficient, it's much easier
Sure,
doing
I
it
get
deli
that.
style, the way that we're doing it now,
Right.
because typically, I would have to, so essentially we grow a mass, and I don't have a manufacturing license down there either.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
manufacturing license is for up here, because we are selling it up here. So I don't have to do it up here.
Does it make a better product if you do it that way, or?
No, so rather than
Customer
individually
service.
packaging, which we would have to get like nitrous, to like preserve the product in a much better way, we have it in a giant bag where we pull out of, and that way we can actually like mix the flour and make sure it's getting aerated and everything like that. So it's just an easier process for us.
I think we all might need to go over and see how this is actually done. No, just kidding.
Gotcha, yeah.
That the state of New Mexico gives you the authority
I
to do
think the
site
process
visits.
is a lot more customer friendly than the 70s.
Yes, no, it's definitely.
How would you know? Are you speaking from experience?
I've heard.
So I've heard that.
I've
too.
heard that.
But Mr. Chairman, this, I think, it's a pretty simple ask. The term manufacturing
Yeah.
is offsetting because it gives this connotation of maybe of an
It's
industrial
more packaging.
activities, but it's
Literally
really
taking from a
not.
big bag and taking
It's
a little
portioning.
amount, putting it into a
Understand.
small bag.
Okay.
My only concern, and this is just me personally, my only concern is, okay, if we say yes for manufacturing, and we're all, thinking, oh yeah, it's just gonna be doing this, but we now conceded to manufacturing, what happens if, no, you gave me manufacturing?
That's part of the conversation we're having at the end of this meeting with the other code amendments.
Okay, so that would extend to other making gummies and all sorts of stuff, is that?
So-
right?
Yes.
You know?
With making gummies and stuff, you have to extract THC using solvents,
Right.
which we're not trying to do.
No, I understand.
That's
Yeah, you're not,
But-
but the next guy.
No, no,
But
no,
if-
no,
if
no,
you got rid of
Our
it-
village ordinance doesn't allow the solvents to
Have-
happen.
I get it.
Right, the only thing that we allowed was the extraction really with a hot plate. Because
Okay.
we didn't wanna get across the line where somebody says, I've got all these rights, and next thing you know,
That's
I'm
my concern on that.
cultivating and all that. But we took those corrective measures up front,
Okay,
and then at the end of your agenda, there's another, a
Right.
code amendment, it's
For
more of
water.
a belt and suspenders to make sure that we're never gonna cross that, so.
And I know what we're coming up on that, but my devil's advocate to that is, then why did you allow them knowing you weren't gonna do, you were gonna do this? Is it just a way to get around? I mean, is somebody gonna come back and haunt us? I don't want any grief. I mean, that's my big deal. I don't want,
Well, also,
Well-
since it's manufacturing, when it comes to edibles and whatnot, I believe you have to prove that you own water rights or you have the water rights from where you're producing, which we will never get up here,
right, I can get those online.
Gotcha.
I mean, but that's my only concern is I don't wanna get into a.
We don't either, we don't wanna have an issue
So
whether
is there
it's,
any way to say manufacturing and then have an agreement that says it will only be repackaging and relabeling of cannabis?
we already say that, our code already says that.
Okay, so it
Our
does say-
code already says
okay.
that, yes,
All right, then,
I'll trust you.
it does.
okay. Anybody got any questions? Anybody wants to go visit and, walk there? No, just kidding.
I actually do wanna go.
Yeah. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Ayes win.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're not gonna do that.
Let's get Zuni circle up.
Okay, yeah. Oh, Zuni. Okay, this is item C on the agenda, is a discussion and approval of a conditional use permit for 14 Zuna Circle.
And the other exhibit two, the other
Not
attachment.
Zuna.
Zuni.
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 Just
So,
open both.
yeah,
Let's start with the site plan. That one, site plan and floor plan.
it's 25-002 site plan and floor.
So you're first.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need a motion to discuss. Do I have a motion?
Motion to discuss.
I'll second it.
Okay, so now let's open this up for discussion. Okay, what do we got? What are we doing? Why are we doing it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This property owner, over time, has bought out the cul-de-sac at the end of Zuni Circle. I think it's 5 lots total. They move here full-time now. They're, would like a new garage and an apartment above the garage for when folks visit and family. The house is gonna remain, the existing garage will remain. New garage is shown on the site plan. And if we go to page 2 on that, I think, yes, so here's the elevations.
Yeah, I couldn't see where it showed the new garage. Oh, the ad, that'd be this one over here? Okay.
Yes,
Now I
yes.
see it.
And if you go back one.
So it's got a garage, it's got an existing
This should
structure
be page 2. Yes,
and an existing garage, and we're adding another garage.
correct.
Okay, just so I'm.
If you go back to the site plan and,
This one?
yes,
Right there.
there you go. So the first floor has utility storage, there's a carport, 2-car, actually, it looks like 3-car garage. Stairs in the back corner, and then you would go up to the living quarters that matches most of the first floor. If we can scroll down just a little bit. Yes, so it doesn't go over the bottom right corner of the garage, and it doesn't go over the carport, and I can't tell from there if it goes into the storage or not. But you've got 2 bedrooms, a kitchen and gathering area, for when family comes over
Yes.
and friends, that there's an actual place to stay on site. Right now, since they weren't full-time, people could come and, I'm here for this weekend and then I'll go in for Christmas. But now, if they're here full-time and people are coming in and there needs to be more space. We've received no, letters or phone calls.
Okay.
Is it, what utilities are there? Is it gonna share septic or?
So utilities there include water and power already, because they serve the main structure. So they'll have to tie into the existing septic and maybe upgrade if they need to. But water's already available on there too.
So it seems kind of like they probably are gonna have to upgrade this septic.
More than likely.
Yeah.
And extend the leach field, et cetera.
Or put it in a whole separate.
Well,
for
the
that.
property's 3 acres, a little over 3 acres.
I get that.
So it's got the room to do that. I think that's part of the reason why they've combined the lots at the end of the cul-de-sac.
How long have these lots been combined recently?
The last combo happened, I wanna say in August, the last 2 lots.
See, that's where we're getting into the same thing that we had.
With Mr.
Right. And we denied that one. So I don't wanna get into, you know what I'm leading up to. We denied somebody else doing this. They went and bought 2 lots, combined them, and they were gonna build a house, and this over here, and they're gonna rent this out and build this, and then over here, they're gonna live. And we denied that. So I don't wanna get into a problem with them coming back and saying, why did you let them do it and you didn't let me do it?
Well, every case stands on its own.
I understand,
So-
but still, it's there. And I mean, it's, you know, it's just something, so there's 5 lots there, they just bought 2 recently?
No, they've bought all of them, it's just they didn't combine them until recently.
So they're legally combined.
They've all finally been legally combined. I think they've owned them, but again, you can combine 2 at a time, right? So if they're doing 5, it took a while to do that.
So what
I combined
precedents?
3 at a time.
What,
Either way, they couldn't do the 5 all at once, they had to do several applications to get this.
are you saying that because this body disproved, didn't allow one, we're not ever gonna allow?
No, I'm not saying that. I don't wanna get into, well, they just bought this and, you know, they're doing the same thing and we said no on this one, but you're gonna say yes on this one.
How do you avoid it?
That's one of the things that I talked about last time to avoid it, is stop it.
I think the difference between, Mr.
Right.
Chairman, and both applications, I think in the last application, you heard the applicant say, I'm really gonna rent this out.
Right.
I'm gonna build this to rent this out. This applicant's saying, I'm not renting this out. I just need space for family and friends to come over. I think that by itself is a difference in both applications. Otherwise, you know, the floor area for the second unit is less than the main unit. It's on the same property that's over 1 acre, this one's over 3.
Right.
So it would still comply with all the other standards that we have, but again, in this one, the applicant has said, this is really for my family coming in, whereas the other one made it pretty clear
That they were gonna rent that puppy out.
that they were gonna live in the main structure, but they were gonna rent out the second structure
Right.
completely, yes,
Right.
that's kind of where it was.
And these people.
Are you
have
hoping to
owned-
make a comment?
I'd be more than happy to when it's appropriate.
Okay.
And these people have owned, that's where I was trying to get to. These people have owned this for a period of time. It's not like somebody just came in and bought that just now and gonna do it. That was kind of the part of the other one, was there was already existing people there and they came in and bought these 2 and then tried to do that. So these people have owned this for years, based on what you're saying.
Correct, and their house is there, they've got a garage there
Yeah.
now, and the other one was.
So there is
we're
some
gonna build-
differences in this, is where I'm leading up to. Please.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Clerk Strickland, Mark Manley for the resort. As we know, and I'll be really brief, and I appreciate the focus and concern on precedent. We had that issue before, and I just wanted to clear that up. As Mr. Santos Martinez said, this is a living quarters that's above a garage. However, the applicant here, to my understanding, has said they're not intending to rent this out, whereas the applicant in the previous instance on San Juan Drive made it clear that that was their intent. There was some discussion on the San Juan Drive issue at the council level where one of the councilmen was concerned that we passed it once, so don't we have to pass it every single time? And I can see this commission struggling with that right now. These uses there's a big difference between when all of the adjacent neighbors come, or any of them that get the notice, and say, I do not want this in my single family home R1 zoning district, versus everybody coming and saying, I have no problem with this at all. Here, and I think that's where you can hang your hat on being bound or not by precedent. These are case by case, that's why it's conditional. And, I'm here on behalf of the resort, but not as a property owner this time. So I don't have an opinion on whether you all should approve or deny this, but just to focus on the fact that in terms of precedence, all this does is sets the precedence for Zuni Court, for Zuni Circle, and nowhere beyond that. One of the councilmen at the last go-around was saying, we had approved this in other areas many years before my house was even built. So there was no way for me to object to what was proposed across the street at the time those other precedent-setting decisions were made. That's why they shouldn't be considered precedent-setting.
Okay.
Right.
So that's really all I've got to say on this. Again, the resort doesn't have a particular opinion on what should happen on Zuni Circle. However, we do believe that when R1 is to be trampled on, that there's always the right of adjacent property owners to make their voices heard. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't want to get into this stuff, because
I voted yes last time, I'm gonna vote yes for this one too. No
That's
pressure
right.
from me.
so I just
Whatever
wanted,
helps you guys sleep
I just
tonight,
wanted
tell
to,
yourself whatever.
make sure that we weren't, or I wasn't gonna, somebody can make, well, you did this for this and you didn't do it. I don't want that.
But you gotta
My
look at consequences of every
my
decision.
concern is this.
They may come back and do that, and
They
we'll have
may.
to address it when they do.
Is
You're right.
Intent is what the present owner intends to do today.
So all the other people have to do is come back and say, we intend to have our mother-in-law stay here.
I intend to never subdivide it again. I intend to never rent it. The next owner may.
In theory,
And so- right.
you could plat this into 2 lots with 2 dwellings.
Right.
You could, but we're not there.
No.
We're not there. The only thing we've got in front of us is an application on over 3 acres.
Right.
Where you've got a property owner wants a new garage with an apartment above it for family to stay when they visit.
Right,
That's
and
it.
I
That's all
like
you
it that it's
really
3
have.
acres, and I like it that it's that. I like all of it, so I mean, if I were a voting person, then we all vote, well, I can't vote.
The
There's
village
no
house was
tie.
intended to be a temporary building
I
in
vote yes.
1970, just.
But I just wanted to clear it out so that we know what we're doing.
Mr. Chairman, clearly this can create an enforcement challenge. The last time this issue was before you, you had the applicant saying very clearly, I intend to rent this. Here, my understanding is the applicant has said, no, we're moving here full-time,
They learned from the last one.
and we need more space.
Right.
And I do think you've gotta go on what the applicant tells you. And when they say very clearly, I intend to violate this, you
Right.
gotta take them at their word.
Well, yeah, there's,
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, there's 2 aspects, the one that you just said, and the other one is I run out here and buy these 2 lots and try to do this. These folks that have had, that's why I asked the question, have they had this property for a period of time?
They have.
So everybody knows that they've got it, so that's where I'm good with that.
Indeed, and in both cases, the applicant could simply subdivide and build another house.
Right, so,
Thank you.
Yeah,
any other Go ahead.
No, I mean, there are distinct differences.
I agree now.
There's a cul-de-sac, it's not, there's tons of stuff here.
Right.
To unpack, but also there was the intent when this was subdivided as R1, that there be 5 different dwellings there,
Correct.
right? And that they be different owners or different.
Could be, yeah.
And so I'm always puzzled, and I understand the affinity for a house that you've had for a long time and the family memories and all that stuff. But it's always kind of like, well, why don't, this valley is full of other properties that allow you to do this. I don't understand how we continually end up in this place where the original intent of the subdivision is now being challenged because they can.
Become one lot.
And so
don't wanna-
there are areas that are R1 that have tracts that this would be perfectly appropriate in as well.
Right.
So that, I guess, that's my issue is, and with all due respect, Mr. Manley, and the setting of precedent and everything, I really believe that in the public's mind, and what I am gonna hear in the post office, is that you set a precedent. And at some point, this town, we're living with metal buildings in places, we're living with a lot of precedent-setting grandfathered things, and I don't intend to continue to create self-inflicted wounds. So I will be voting against.
Mr. Chairman, the other thing I'm gonna add is that the only thing in our purview today is a property that's over 3 acres, which beats the minimum clearance of 1,
Right.
has a main dwelling unit on it today,
Existing?
existing.
That was the other thing that's the other.
Wants an accessory to that main
It's composed
structure.
of more than one lot. so
Correct.
The original intent was to build more than one building on these sites.
And they've made the proper application.
Right.
They've put forward to say, we've been here as property owners, we now wanna stay here.
Right.
We just need more room, more space.
Yeah,
I will say overall though, that's the whole reason why staff feels, this is the reason why it's a conditional use.
Right.
I
So you
understand.
look at these at case-by-case basis, that the argument for precedent, I think, goes back to what was testified before. The circumstances in this application aren't all the same.
No.
Right.
No.
It's in a cul-de-sac,
I
right?
understand that,
It's against a green belt.
There's already
It's
a
not-
structure there.
It does have a structure there. And so I'm not, as staff, not too concerned about this slippery slope of precedent because they aren't the same.
Perfect.
The only thing that's the same is the application, right?
Right.
That I want an accessory dwelling above a garage. In this instance, the house is there. In the other instance, all of it was gonna be a new building.
And that was,
Yes.
whenever we did all of that, and we made this, because I was on that thing when we did all this, our intent was just what we're talking about. The house is already there, you got this, I actually wanted it more land, but anyway, it didn't work. But the house was already there, there was already an existing structure, and you had this, so everybody knew that that was a possibility. So that was my thought on this, so I'm gonna ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All not in favor, say bye.
Aye.
Robin's bye. All right. So that's
Thank
a,
you, Mr. Chairman.
that's a yay.
Let's pull up, the site plan.
All right. The next one, this is the one that everybody's hearing about.
That's 25.
It's the biggest thing growing in the world. It is the fastest one. Anyway, discussing an approval of site plan application for 12 San Mateo.
Fourth from the bottom.
Okay, need a motion?
Also maybe.
Second?
Second.
So we got a first and a second. Let's open it up for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, we have on the screen the site plan for the new pickleball court with the access off of Old Country Club, I believe. So this is zone R04, and in an 04 district, if you'll notice in your book, when you go to an R1, it says front yard setbacks 25, rear yard setbacks 10, or 20, side yard is X. In an 04, there are no standards. It's give us a site plan.
Right.
And build to the site plan.
Correct.
So what you have here is access on the south coming up behind the tennis courts, then you've got a pro shop and your pickleball courts. So Olympic Park is to the west. There's been a lot of consideration to be manageable of the wetlands that are around it to the north and to the east. So it stays away from that. If you go to the second exhibit, because the 04 says, give us a site plan to build at, we've included the elevations, not that one, the other.
It's back,
Tell me.
this is back,
Go
back to your left.
Second from the left.
Right there,
Top row,
that one.
yeah. So
That's the-
elevations show two-story structure at a roughly 28 foot in height. For your consideration to match the overall standards for site plan approval, in this instance, for this zoning district. Other zoning districts, you just need the site plan, you don't need elevations. In this one, we've got both because there's no height standard except for what you show, right? So we've shown the height for the structures, we've showed the access of Country Club to get into the parking area, and then to the pro shop and to the courts behind it. My understanding, the pro shop will also have food and beverage component as well.
Rooftop?
Yes,
Margarita bar.
Margarita bar?
and this is probably the first 04 application. I haven't seen another before this one, but this is the reason why we're taking these steps, because 04 doesn't say, hey, you know, parking is, you know, front yard setback is 50 feet, or it's not in an overlay, so we have to review the permit based on what's been considered and approved by this board and village council.
Perfect.
This isn't our bailiwick, I know, but that drawing right there, you're gonna dump tons of snow on your staircase coming up
Oh, that's not good.
constantly. So you might wanna look at that, but that's.
Well, it's an
not-
outdoor
That's not our-
court, I don't know who's gonna be in winter, in an outdoor court.
I have shoveled, yeah.
Okay, well, Mr. Chairman will be out shoveling stairs.
I've actually got one at my house outside.
I mean, yeah, if you look
Fair
at
enough.
that old
If you wanna go back,
there on that.
my only, which is that one, yes, thank you.
That one there. And I just, this is a question. Have they given any consideration whenever we first started with this, we had phase 1, phase 2, of having more than 8? Because if we designate all of that as wetlands, then you're gonna have to go back and trade more negotiations and all that good stuff. And it's just a question that's thrown out there.
Perhaps Mr. Rakes could weigh in on that. I'm not aware of any expansion plans,
Well,
but that doesn't
whenever
mean they
we-
don't
no.
exist.
Whenever we being the Angel Fire Pickleball
Yeah.
Club, brought it to the resort, when they talked about it, we had phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, because phase 1 was 8, phase 2 was 16, and phase 3 was lighting on parts of them. And so we gave the resort a set of plans showing that with parking, just pretty much what you've got. But that's all I was asking.
Are these gonna be lit?
What is it?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Okay, last time, tell him to unmute.
Dan, you need to unmute. There we go.
There you go.
I hate it when people do that. To answer those questions, we don't have any immediate plans for expansion. If you look at the site plan from the top, the 20,000 feet view, you can tell there's a lot of wetlands in that area. There's creeks running through all over the place, and the number one question that I've been dealing with for the last 2 years is, why is it taking so long? Well, we tasked our engineers from the beginning to put everything we needed, the pickleball courts, the pro shop, the splash pad. We're also going to have a disc golf course for people to play on without disturbing any of the wetlands. And I think that they did a remarkable job. With that said, now there is some room it would be west of the parking lot that's not wetlands that we could consider in the future. But I think our immediate task is to get these pickleball courts built, the pro shop built, and the splash pad and the other amenities. I do want to mention that we're doing this project in collaboration with the Property Owners Association. They've contributed money to this project, as well as one of the chairlifts that we're putting in this summer. So we're very excited to get this project going. The plan, as far as the construction goes, is to focus on getting the courts built, number one. We're already talking to Renner Sports, who specializes in building these type of courts. And then work on the pro shop and the parking lot and everything else. So it's an exciting project. I think our engineers did a remarkable job, and we're excited to get this going. We've already got it in the hands of contractors, so we're excited to get this thing going.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the only reason I asked that is, last summer and the summer before, there's been over 60+ people sitting there to play, and you figure out there's 4 people to a court. Yeah, that's a lot of nothing. So that's the only reason I was asking. But no, I'm happy to see it. I'm ready to start.
And to answer your questions, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, to answer your questions about the lighting, we don't have, we are running electrical outlets to the areas, but we don't have plans to put the lights in at the beginning. So, but we are running electricity out to those areas.
Okay, okay. Any other questions? All in favor say aye. All opposed?
What are we waiting for? This is just to approve the site plans? over
Yeah,
there?
Correct, site plan elevations, that's the only thing for consideration.
You know, it's an awful noisy.
I mean,
I don't wanna.
I know you got a
put a
vested
court
interest
in
in
It's
this.
an awful noisy, so everybody I hear that lives near one of these things complains about the
Move,
noise.
it was there before you were.
I just thought I'd mention that.
And just up the road.
Yeah, I know, you're gonna be hearing them all night.
So, do you have anything?
I do not.
So, okay, all in favor, say aye.
I
All opposed, say no. One aye carries it. I vote aye too, so 2.
I said
Thank you. Thank you.
Robin said aye too.
with my eyes.
Thank you.
Said it with your
I said it with my eyes.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. We'll get this scheduled for council.
Perfect.
Thank
Discussion and approval of plot application for lot 65 re-amended Angel Fire Chalet Unit Number 4. Motion to, I entertain a motion to
You have it on the
discuss.
screen already. Top row.
also moved.
At the end.
Got a second? Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this one. This one's,
Mr. Chairman, it's up on the board. It's a little over 45 acres. There's a structure, there's only one structure on the property, and that's in the northeast corner, you'll see there, where the access point, you see the drive that comes back to back basin. So the request that you have before you is to take the 45 and split it into two lots. 10 acres for the house, and then the balance is still zoned I believe that's still an R1. There's no proposed development with this request. There's no proposed need for any utility upgrades, because it's just to split the lots in 2. This is not eligible for an administrative review because it's over 5 acres. So this is the reason why it's being brought before you as a panel of the Plan Commission, is because the overall size of the request exempts it from administrative lot splits. But again, there's no accompanying, hey, we're gonna put 6 lots over, no, it's just a split of a 45 acre lot into 2, one for the main structure at 10 and the balance at 35. There's no other permits that have been submitted for development on either lot, but the request is to split it into 2. The applicant is here as well if you have further questions.
perfect. My question is why?
Yeah.
Well, I've been here 40 years.
If you come to the podium, so we can get you,
Of course.
and just give your name and address.
Joel Goldblatt, 181 Back Basin Road, Mr. Chairman. This is actually has been over many, many years, a combination of 14 lots. And our intention was to keep it that way, but due to personal circumstances, we have been trying to sell this home for 4 years now, with 4 different realtors. And the comment that continues to come back is people don't want that much land. So the Realtor's suggestion and what we're proposing is to literally put 10 acres of the house that exists with the driveway that exists, and then leave all the woodlands, the meadow, and there's a running stream protected with 35 acres. So it's a 1 to 2 subdivision, although originally this was 14 lots that we combined.
The other property balance has all this access available still on Back Basin. I think kind of like in the northwest corner, you've got some level spots too, where you don't go down into the creek area, where if somebody wanted to build a home, there's a high point that's pretty relatively flat. Again, we don't have any applications for any of that.
We're not applying for any permits.
But that, in theory, is a possibility for someone to do it, should they take the balance of it, and they don't want to go through the expense to build a driveway all the way down. There's plenty of spots up along Back Basin where that could occur. That said, it would still only be one house, because the zoning district would still remain. We're not changing any of that conditions with this request. We're just taking a 45-acre piece, splitting it into 2. The only balance that could remain is one house on the 35. So, again, this isn't a request to, like for workforce housing, it's none of that. This is just split it, and what could go on the other lot is one house. And there's spots along the road that are level that they can still get a good address and visibility on the road without having to go down.
Okay, thank you. Just trying to figure out exactly where this is on Back Basin Road.
It's about two miles up from
2 miles up?
Chile.
It's the part that does this. It's the big V on Back Basin Road.
This right here?
Switchback.
Yeah.
And there's a driveway right before the
Correct.
curve.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
The driveway is on the northeast side.
right. So today, Mr. Chairman, all that's 45 acres, everything in that V, basically. And all you could get on the other side is just, again, one house. You have one house today that's now gonna be standalone on lot 1A or whatever that number's going to be.
Right.
But there's no other request with this application.
Okay. And this is just, I don't care, but, so once you split it, now you've got 2 lots, you're gonna be paying 2 sets of dues?
You would,
I assume so.
Okay.
well, the new
Just
people
wanna-
will.
I just wanna make sure you get your money. Appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, you've got some other folks in the audience that.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Commission, my name is Evelyn O'Coin. My husband and I own lots 71 and 72 directly across from this. If you have the other picture available, I don't know if you have that available.
It's not on the screen.
Well,
but
what
if you
was-
zoom out, I think.
What was mailed out here, 71 and 72, we basically run along this entire edge of this property as it's being split. Our home is on lot 72. Yes, sure. So here's 72 and 71. Our house is on 72, but we bought this and combined. So we own this 12.8 acres here, right here. So basically we face this entire edge of the lot here. Here. Yeah, 72, 71, we own both. Our home is on here. And so we edge this whole, I face this way. Yeah. Is that helpful?
I'm just trying to,
I always think it looks like a penguin head when you look at it right from the sky. I wanted to call it like Penguin Palace or something cute like
so
that.
that goes, okay, so
Yeah.
I got you right here.
Exactly.
This is you.
That's me. We've lived here full time. August will be 4 years.
Okay.
We made the brilliant decision to start building during COVID. I'll let you use your imagination how that went.
I did too.
Timing is everything. We don't, my assumption would be we split this into 2 lots. The 35 acres then that is now parsed out, R1, a house can be built on it. A house can be built, I guess, anywhere, right, on that lot without any sort of approval to the plat or anything of that nature, right?
So every permit has to go through review administratively, that it complies with all the remaining standards of the village.
Okay.
It's setbacks, it's height, lot coverage.
Yeah.
That we get a water meter set, an encroachment permit set, all those still apply.
Right. So where our house faces over on 72, over that edge, is actually where the guardrail is, and it's
Right.
very, very, very steep there. So a logical human would look at that 35 acres and go, well, nobody would ever pick to build right in front of those poor people's house, because that's where it drops off 60 feet from the road. But obviously, somebody, if they wanted to, could build a house with a suspended driveway, garage, and drop right in front of us now. I mean, right, that could happen.
And we knew what was there when we built our house, knowing that that lot was already built on and nothing else was supposed to go.
In theory, Mr. Chairman, in theory, that's correct. In theory, you could do that.
In theory, and
In-
logically, doesn't make sense.
And
I agree.
Again, I think practically, yes, that's a really bad spot. I mean, you do see stilt homes on El Camino, right?
Yeah.
But those lots in El Camino have like 50 feet of frontage, 100 feet
Right.
of frontage. They don't have 35 acres worth of frontage. And on this request, you do have, on the western boundary in the northwest corner, you do have property on that lot that's suitable for development and not having to engineer something
That
next to the guardrail.
being said,
Here, my husband
the
Chris would
view
love to
from that
talk.
point
Yeah, I was gonna-
is much better than it is. We built going out where it's steeper on ours rather than necessarily was flat because we wanted the view, so we
Right.
went right up to the edge where it was.
Sure.
And we want to make sure that whatever, if it's split up, that's fine, but we want to make sure that somehow somebody couldn't go build where I'm then looking at a house when we knew we were looking at woods, basically.
Mr. Chairman,
So-
I'm gonna venture to say that if somebody wanted to put a second driveway on that portion of Back Basin by the guardrail, I don't think our Public Works Director would approve that permit. Because of the grade elevation, and it's not like it's a drop.
It goes, I mean,
literal
like it was
drop.
blown, like it was blown out, like,
Right.
here's the guardrail, and, I mean, we have guardrails on things that drop off pretty dramatically around here. This was actually enough of a drop off, they actually put in a guardrail.
Right.
So it's gotta be like 60 feet or
I don't-
something, 50 feet.
I don't wanna speak for Kurt, but I feel that if you have a encroachment permit request for a driveway that's coming off the road that just drops, I don't know how we would approve that. I will say, the driveway that's there now has a gradual run to the north to get to the house.
Right.
You're not doing this. There are some properties on Panorama Way, I don't know how they do it in the winter. But in this instance, I would think the village would look at a new permit for construction, and if somebody proposed that, their driveway's gonna have to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
Specifically, what are you asking for?
I guess we're voicing our.
Your concern.
Our
I
concern.
understand that.
That if it's, this 35 acres now, I don't wanna say is open season, where they could put a house, but it's open season where they could put a house.
Well, and I think in the process, like what Sanchez is talking about, there is a step for you to come in and
Okay.
voice your objection and bring out the fact that this was all one property. And, and you would probably have some, I don't mind, I have some decent standing.
Okay, I
Mine
think
too.
that's really my question, is why.
Mine too, because I bought my land knowing that this was, I wasn't gonna have to jack around with a bunch of
Right.
nonsense.
And I think that's it, I wanna know if we would
You
have
know,
a.
guarantee nothing,
Of course, no
what's the same, you
guarantees,
have-
but if there would be in the process a way for us to have a voice if that was what was going to happen, I think that's mostly my concern, understanding what the protocol would
Sure.
be in that particular situation, since the situation is obviously changing.
I
or being
don't know
proposed to
that the
change.
village wants to get into a point where we approve something that's just a hazard, right?
Yeah.
And that whole guardrail part of the property, there's a reason for the guardrail, there's a hazard. I don't know why we would try to split the guardrail for a drive approach.
When
No,
there's
there
35
are
other
some
acres.
areas over next to the guard, right, because the guardrail's
But
right there.
even
that's
those
steep
spots.
because our other neighbor ran off the road there and
Yes.
passed away last year,
Yes,
so.
I don't know that the village would want to
Yeah,
create a
we wouldn't
scenario where we almost encourage a hazard, because it's not in the guardrail, but it's near the, I think anything on that side of the road is pretty hazardous to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that said, from a cost and a permitting perspective, the western property line of this proposed split has areas that are viable for new home construction. And again, we're only talking one house.
Well, we are now, right? It could come where they wanna come
The
split.
next person wanted to
they
split
wanna
that
split
45 to
that.
35
And
to
going-
25 to-
Going back to a year and a half ago. and
But I still-
They
I
wanted
still
to build
think-
9 casitas.
9 casitas on the
Right,
property.
Right, but I still
And that's the
think
last
in
time
that
I spoke.
perspective,
I remember.
it's still gonna be a challenge to get a drive approach on that side of Back Basin, regardless of how many lots there are.
But it could happen.
I personally would think that if somebody wanted to split this again, they would split it so they could get to it from the other side of Back Basin.
Yeah.
And that they're not on the east side of Back Basin trying to get a drive approach.
They could, but then they could go build a house kind of up against that back area. where
So
then we're
here's
looking- I mean,
the other
that's-
thing I want you to be mindful of. The village measures grade and maximum height from the highest point of the property where you're building. So if you're expressing to the commission now that boundary goes like this and just drops, right? I'm going to measure grade from here, and the most you can get is 30, 35 feet. So they can never get above the bowl
The
line,
road,
the ridge
okay.
line.
That helps.
Just
That helps.
because if they're gonna build on that flat, that's fine, but.
But it starts
you're-
there.
It starts there.
Got
It
it.
doesn't start up top because they're not building a structure there. If they were on the other side of Back Basin where there's some flat, I'm gonna measure from that flat point
Okay.
going up. So I'm familiar with the spot, it kinda goes into a bowl as
Yes.
you get into the V. Well, if you're gonna build in the bowl, I'm measuring from the bottom of the bowl.
Okay.
So your view shed should remain the same unless they choose to take out more trees or whatever.
Okay, and that could happen.
Yeah,
They
yeah, that
could
could
have taken out
happen.
the trees
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they
yeah.
wanted to. That's not an
But
issue.
the reality of building a structure, measuring grade the way we measure grade, I think if I was a property owner, I'd like to get a view shed too. I don't really get anything in the bottom of the bowl.
Yeah, there's a
I'd get
lot of
something better.
deterrence against
Yes.
it happening, but we
So-
just wanted to express our opinion.
The fact that I don't think we would approve a drive approach.
Right.
But second, the house couldn't be built up there, it's gonna be built low, and even at a maximum height, it's not gonna get above that ridge line, if that helps.
That's
And
all I
it
have.
doesn't
Thank
set a
you.
precedent then where other lots can just be split. I mean, and this is kind of going back to one of the
Right.
conversations you had earlier is,
You're gonna speak, step up to the podium
Yes.
to be on the recording.
it's just making sure that it's not something that then somebody wants 35 1-acre lots, and that's not, right, we bought knowing what was there and and we didn't have to worry
That-
about the future, but this kind of
And
seems
that's
to open it
why,
up.
Mr. Chairman, that's why this is here before you, because it doesn't qualify as administrative. If somebody wanted to do this again, they're gonna have to come through this exact same process.
Right.
You saw the notice that went out to all property owners within 200 feet. Everybody was made aware that this was happening today.
Right.
You have property owners who are here today because of that. So
And I like that.
if somebody wanted to do that exercise, it would be in this same type of venue. You would get a notice, you'd be told when it is, where, and it's gonna be in here, yes, but I also want you to rest assured, there are other provisions of the code that I think protect what the interests are that you're trying to protect.
Yeah, cause there is a height limit, I couldn't
Yes.
find it exactly in there, cause
Yeah,
100
just,
feet, but.
just one other thing on the notice too. Last time the notices were a lot better because there were things posted out along the road. So even if you didn't get the mail, you would see what it was. This time I got an envelope, it was open, it could have fallen out and I would have known what was in there at all. And it was a fairly short notice, so
Sure.
trying to notify people better, because we have 2 or 3 other neighbors that could be impacted by this. They may not even be aware of it because, one, they're not full-time. so
Right,
sure
that's
they
what I
may
was
not
gonna
have
say,
much
that's
time.
the ones down below you is not full-time.
The only difference, Mr. Chairman, the last time this property came before the board was a zoning amendment.
Yep.
So zoning amendments require a sign. So that's the reason.
That's fine,
Okay.
just wanted to
Thank you.
voice our side.
Any other comments, questions, concerns?
You know, I understand their concern. I think, it would land in front of us again anyway, if their concern materialized.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's 35 acres. Obviously, the highest and best use of that property is not cliff dwelling off the edge of it. I think it's probably interior for the same reason Joel built his inside the property to be in nature. So I really don't see it happening, But I am glad that if somebody did come forward with that, that they would have recourse to come back and we would look at that again. I'm always concerned that the subdividing just continues on
That's my
and the
concern.
combining and all that. But we're not talking about 3 acres, we're talking about 35 acres.
Correct.
For now,
For now.
Correct. And any future application of this size, it's gonna come back to you as
Come back to
well.
us. All
Because
right.
it's over 5 acres.
right?
Anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns? All in favor, say aye. All not in favor, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Everybody says aye, no one's gonna say no.
It could be. I could say
Let's
no.
try to get the
This next one here.
last one up, which is just a word document.
Did you get, has everybody had a chance to look at this code amendment plan?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, let me do this first. Discussion and approval of a proposed amendment for Title IX, Chapter 11, Article C, Section 4. Need a motion to discuss.
I propose we discuss this.
Say? So, okay, let's open this up for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to submit one amendment to what went out in your packet. And you'll notice there's a reference to Plan Commission and Workforce Housing Committee. The recommendation should just be Plan Commission. The statutes only reference this body, Lodgers Tax Committee.
Okay.
It doesn't, there's nothing in the code that spells out Workforce Housing Committee.
I was gonna ask if
So,
there was
I'd prefer just to keep that language to mirror the other provisions of code and state statute. State statute has no reference to a Workforce Housing Committee, even though the village has one. In the future, I just want that one reference point. So, we've had 3 developers approach the village to build new housing in the overlay district, to provide a percentage of their build to the village for workforce housing in exchange for a density bonus. And in listening to them as, well, how many units are we talking about? You know, because the most you can get right now is 20 units to the acre with our R3 standards. In the overlay, even the commercial districts say you can build R3 standards, 20 units to the acre. So what are we talking about when you ask for a density bonus? In my head, I'm thinking like, well, in the city of Dallas, you can get 120 units to the acre. No, we're just talking an extra 10 units. Oh, okay. So the proposal you have before you kind of blends some conversations that are going on in different parts of the village. There are independent developers that are saying, if I could commit X percentage of at least 10% to the village or someone for workforce housing, could you let me get to 30 units to the acre? Okay, so that's part of what we're hearing. What is workforce housing? So the state of New Mexico has 2 classifications on income levels to fall into an affordable category or a workforce housing category. Workforce housing is defined by New Mexico Finance Authority as an individual or household who earns up to 300% of the average median income. Affordable housing through Housing New Mexico, formerly known as MFA, Mortgage Finance Authority, was 150% of AMI. So you had anybody at or below 150 was considered affordable. Anybody at or below 300 is workforce housing. What does that do? Well, in talking to the Finance Authority, 300% of AMI for Angel Fire means anybody who's earning in 2024 $138,000 is eligible as a candidate to find housing. What does that mean? That's a police chief, that's a fire chief, that's a principal. That's a lot of people in addition to everyone below that threshold. That's really what it means. At 150%, which is what the village secured for the workforce housing project that they're trying to build, that fund came from Housing New Mexico. That's at 150%. So that's $98,000. If you're at or below $98,000, you qualify in an affordable unit to be eligible for one of these spaces. So the proposal you have before you just takes the higher threshold that the state of New Mexico has and just works down. So anybody who earns 50,000, 98,000, up to 138,000 would be an eligible candidate for one of these units
So, okay, that's the ceiling, is 138, okay.
for today.
For today.
So every
But-
year, every year, the US Housing and Urban Development Department adjusts those numbers. Every April, across the United States, they go Colfax County, they go through metro areas, and they say, this is AMI for 2025. So that's why that language is in there. That number is always gonna change over time, because that's how the standards are for, and the state of New Mexico takes that number from HUD to apply for funding and options for theirs, their programs.
I have a million questions.
Absolutely.
These are individual units, they're PUDs, they're what? That are being proposed typically.
Individual
I mean, in
units.
terms of density and,
So, some of these developers, two of them were looking at a townhome product,
okay, and these are for sale.
some for sale, some for rent. Another developer was looking at apartments, just actual 2-story, 3-story apartment buildings. So you have those units available.
Right.
The properties we're talking about, one's 8 acres, another one's 7 acres, another one is a little over 3 acres.
Sure.
So even on the bigger ones, you have where you could put a rental and you could put a for sale product, right? I think what they're also looking at is a mixture of incomes all around. If you start in a rental unit and you wanna buy this unit when it becomes available, you could do that, is part of the conversations.
And all these developers have asked for this
The only thing they've asked for is
as an incentive.
correct. Can I get to 30 units to the acre if I guarantee at least 10%? And the way this language is crafted is, there's a screen review, right?
Sure.
That you guys could say, yeah, okay, 10's fine. Well, we'd really like 15. That you could have that conversation with an application that comes in, or 10's good. In phase one, with this, what's being proposed, you've got a lot of discretion on that to consider whether or not it's worthy enough to get that extra 10 units, right? But we don't have any tool that triggers that mechanism at all.
And these are all on the overlay?
Correct. And the reason I put the overlay is there's water and sewer. There's water and sewer there. And we really should try to encourage more tap fees right along the road that makes it easy to get to for folks to develop.
How old is that special assessment district?
Not old enough.
It's pretty old.
But the fact that people are looking at it to build units,
Yes.
I think that's the big part of, okay, if that's the part of the village that they wanna talk about, let's look there. And if you wanna open it up to other parts of the village later, that's fine, but I think the overlay has some assets to it that's vacant land, water, sewer, access to highway. Some of it has sidewalk, that it should be encouraged to look at.
So how does this feed into like parking and that kind of stuff?
It doesn't. So there's no variances with any of that. We would have to look at, I'm sorry?
30 units on an acre and then they can just park in the street?
No.
Yeah, I mean, because
I'm not saying-
use this as example here, this layout that they've kind of proposed. And I know it's just a proposed layout, this is not final by any means at all. But if you look at that, it just looks like, where's the parking? I mean, there is some in there, but it's like 30 spots.
This is the
30
workforce
units.
housing one.
Right.
That's the village
I
application.
mean, that's my kind of concern. You go sticking these things in there and all of a sudden people are
Yeah, where
parking all over and you know,
This
nobody
does
has
not-
one car, is two.
This does not provide any variances to parking. So all the other standards that we have in code, X number of spaces per unit, all that remains. All that stays intact. The only thing that this does, and why it's crafted in the overlay, is just on the density portion. So when we start looking at permits to say, okay, how many acres do you have? How many units are you proposing? Do the math, okay, yeah, you're
Okay,
within
that's
it.
cool. Okay. I just want to make sure. what
But we
they're
are not asking to,
abandoning that.
yeah, we're not asking to do any other variances with this request at all.
It says here, at least 3 housing developments, this that's proposed, how realistic is that? I mean,
Really realistic.
I mean, we, as a committee, have approved several, and nothing's happened.
So
Nothing's happened.
there's another property that's already, it's under contract or about to close. The other property next to Zeb's, between Zeb's and True Value, that's about to happen. The
Say
corner,
that again?
so the property that's vacant where the cannabis shop originally wanted to go,
Right?
between Zeb's and True Value, they're looking at a commercial piece along 434 and housing in the back. Townhome style housing, 2 or 3 story units. That developer says, I may not need 30, but could I get a little over 20? Okay, well, this says you can go up to 30, right? So that's one. The property at the hard corner behind Remax that we're originally looking for a hotel.
Right.
That's about to go, actually, that did close in January for 104 units is what they're proposing to build there.
Apartments?
No, townhomes
Okay.
and detached single family. So that they want
wait. So you said 104 homes.
102, 104 units, townhomes for rent and single family detached for sale.
Okay, here's my concern, and this is just me being the way I am. Here we got 104 here, we got 83 here, we got 30 here, all these water taps. Do we have that water?
Great
if-
question.
If in case something happens like it did in, I don't wanna run out of water. If I wanted to live with no trees, I'd have bought an eagle nest.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mr. Chairman, because it
Because
was-
that's ridiculous, I mean,
the
that's.
village actually met with the state engineer's office 2 weeks ago, and year to date, from 24 to 25, as you may remember, the village installed all these new water meters.
Yeah, I've heard it all over Facebook.
There you go. The village has installed a new 300,000 gallon tank over tank 7, which was 100,000.
Right.
They've also installed meters at those tanks to let us know when there's a leak. Now, instead of in the morning. The state engineer has revealed, and this was public testimony, year to date, the village has saved 300 acre feet of water in 1 year from these infrastructure improvements. So, and that's not even going out after more shares, which the village is still aggressively trying to do.
Yeah, but the only shares we can get, or my understanding is the only shares that the village can get are, you can't get any more seniors, it's all junior shares and all.
The village is being very
Okay,
creative
that's what,
and going after it.
because that's
So-
my concern, I don't wanna see us burn down
I
because
don't,
we
I
run
don't
out
think
of
the
water.
village wants to be in that spot either, but I do know the work that the village has done in just 1 year's time to save 300 acre feet of water with a lot of the infrastructure upgrades that they've done has been incredible. I think you're gonna see,
It doesn't mean in 10 years we're gonna save 3 million.
well,
There's
I think-
still
That's 300 acre feet, how many
you're
big
hitting right
place
now.
are here?
I
300 acre feet,
think
well,
we're
that-
trying, I think you're seeing the village starting to get ahead where it hasn't had any movement at all. Where we've actually had the funding to get tank 7 replaced finally, to make sure everything on that side of the mountain has the right pressure and service. And now Kurt told me when tank 7 was replaced, there was a wet stain in Cheerful Way. No
Yeah.
one could figure out where it
Been
was
there
from. It was from the tank. There were 3 holes at the bottom of the tank that weren't revealed until they removed the tank, and it was leaching into the street. And now with the new tank, that's 3 times the size, there's no more spillage and leakage. So if the village continues on this path, and I think the other part of it is people are wanting to live here because they can't get anything anywhere else. You're not
Right.
seeing any new development in Taos. You're not seeing it in Red River. You're not seeing it in Eagle Nest, but people want to live here. I think the village is being very aggressive and proactive in looking at water rights, what's available, and what can we do to ensure our infrastructure is at the right size and the right place to make it count. So that's not to say that that concern is not a concern. I think people have been trying to take that into account
Okay,
and talking into this conversation about housing.
cause that's a concern that I have.
It is.
And that's a big, I mean, we got hydrants out there that don't even work.
And I share your concern too, but I mean, as far as this right here, I'm comforted by the fact that they may be entitled.
Correct.
and we may consider these requests.
That's correct.
So there's a couple of steps in here, I think, where we can consider these on a case-by-case basis.
And that's the-
And sometimes it's not gonna make sense, and sometimes it is gonna make sense.
That's correct.
So, I'm
And that-
okay with this as it is, because of
Yeah,
those two
I,
categories.
like I said, I just wanted to bring that up because I sat there and I got to thinking about how many have we approved? I mean, we approved over there behind the grocery store, we approved over there
Correct.
by, the golf course, we've approved this. How many meters could that be? And then we're looking at all the rest of this. Do we have enough water to service all of these and protect our valley from fire threats? That's my concern. So
And then,
if
you know,
we,
then just bring it up every time they propose one of these, and we'll make sure we have the
Documentation,
infrastructure,
yeah.
whatever in place, yeah.
yeah.
And
So that's,
actually, Mr. Chairman, that ties into your next two.
I know, that's why I read that and I'm like,
See how he
okay,
segued like that?
yeah. So, let's,
But Mr. Chairman, you're absolutely right. It says may, doesn't say shall.
right.
And it does necessitate, hey, if you want it, you need to ask for it, it's not an automatic, and we're gonna take it case by case, but at least there's this opportunity. I'm comforted that we're looking at 10 units extra, we're not looking at 50 units extra, right? We're not looking at, hey, if I'm gonna give you
Still,
10%.
There will be a
units in there in
saturation
that
point at some
area's
point where
lot.
you
That's
can't build them
dense.
because nobody will buy them or use them or whatever.
I've seen a preliminary layout. If you look at that property as well, just like you saw on the pickleball courts with the wetlands, they have to take into account
Right.
there. And so there are portions where you're gonna see townhomes for rent, a lot of open space, because you can't do anything
Can't
with
build
it.
it, right.
And then you're gonna have detached homes for sale. But they actually wanna utilize that wetlands as an open space, as an amenity to that site. I'm not saying that it's completely flat and unreasonable. I think they're trying to work with what's on the property now to make it work. There's a third developer that came up to approach about, about Patriot Plaza being shut down. People have been expressing interest with the property owners of taking that 8 acres. That's 20 units to the acre as well. I just don't know where those conversations are.
Patriot, refresh my memory.
The one that got shut down out here.
Where J&A's is, and then the 2-story building in the back that they converted to 13 apartments without a permit
Right.
or a licensed contractor,
They wouldn't do that.
They've gotta take it down.
they gotta fix it.
They gotta fix it, they gotta take it up to code and then get a permit, bring it up to code and then they can deal with it.
So this is important because the state of New Mexico actually has affordable housing funds that one developer was looking at to get, I think, $750,000 to fix that building.
That's
And then get another pot of state funding for affordable housing to build more units. So this,
I'm afraid that if we don't have this kind of wording, that they might use it to deny us funding, saying, well, you don't have the ability, that. So that's another reason why I'm kind of leaning for this for sure.
there's an
I mean,
application.
I have no issue with it, I just wanna make sure we as
Me
a
neither.
body are thinking, not for today, not tomorrow, but
Right.
that's
Yes.
a lot of units to be coming online. Do we have the water to support it? Cause I don't, like I say, I don't wanna be like California. We got
That's why people.
hydrants right now that are dead.
I
So,
definitely don't wanna be like California.
I'm glad.
Put that on the record.
You are.
Property for California.
So, on item F, the discussion and approval of proposed amendment for Title IX, Chapter 11, Article C, Section 4. All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There, Robert, I made you happy, I didn't ask for an ace. G, and we got a note saying let's consider these two together, for this code amendment. So I'll just, discussion and approval of amendment to Title IX, Chapter 2, and
And
Title
Chapter
9, Chapter 7.
Make a motion, we discuss these.
Do I hear a second? Okay, let's open this one up for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This goes back to this conversation you've had at this hearing about water. Today, our code does not allow anyone to have any agricultural commercial rights, period. We don't have it.
Right.
Because we don't have the water for it. There's a
But you
concern,
just said we had water.
well, we have water for people.
Right.
But the concern is, somebody would try to make an end run and have commercial crop productions, because it's silent in our code, which means it's prohibited, right? So the concern is, well, what if somebody says, well, you didn't say it?
Right.
This amendment says it, so that we don't have a situation where somebody tries to tie into public water for crop production. And so this amendment has two parts, but they mirror each other.
Okay.
We define what is commercial crop production. And it's the cultivation, it's the harvesting, it's fruits, vegetables, or other plants for retail consumption, sale, or distribution.
And this is strictly on domestic water provided by the village?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. So
Because
we-
there are people out there with wells.
That's right. The water bottling company on the north end of town, they're not tied into our water. They have a well, they have a commercial well they've had prior to annexation. So that's what they use. This definition would, for anybody coming in, not only do we not allow it, now we've defined it, and then in chapter 7, we put it in the supplemental, you can't tie into any public water source, period.
Okay.
So,
I like that.
so this is not just the concerns of our overall water value and availability, it's, we don't have anybody growing alfalfa off of public water. We don't have anybody growing corn off of public water for retail consumption. This is just.
I have a couple of people growing herbs and things like that for,
Personal consumption?
Greenhouses.
I wouldn't say that, maybe they sell them over here in the market on Sundays.
I never sold anything over there. I'm growing tomatoes.
I'm just saying, there's
I know.
people that do that kind of thing.
I
I have to
And,
bring.
I mean, is that them too?
This is, I would, here's what I would add. I would add in the definition, Mr. Chairman, if we could add, this is always a main use. So in those instances where somebody has a backyard garden,
Or like these gardens over here that the.
at the church,
community gardens or what,
yes,
yeah, some-
that community garden church is an accessory to the church, right? The main purpose of that property is the Lutheran church, it's not the garden, that's accessory to the church. The garden behind your house is accessory to your house. If we add the term,
I think we need to-
subject, this shall always be a main use, it doesn't impact that person I've got extra tomatoes, I'm gonna go to farmer's market.
Right.
Put them in a basket, that's not covered by this.
Right. I think we should add that in there just so that. there
This
is-
shall always be a main use.
Yeah, that, and then just clarifies it even more.
I mean, like I said, I know one lady that does grow her own, like, lavender and those kind of things,
Yeah.
and then puts in balms and those kind of things, and then sells it over there.
Yeah, the intent is
What's your grow,
not,
like four
the intent
plants?
is not for that, it's for somebody who just,
Right.
hey, I got this 17 acres over here by the Girl Scout ranch and I'm gonna tie into the water meter.
And
No.
and start growing alfalfa or marijuana or whatever, corn. Yeah. So with those changes added in there, we have any other questions? Anybody? Any questions, comments, concerns? We're cutting you off. All in favor, say aye. Perfect. So we'll get those two things, that language added in there. And if there's nothing else, I'll entertain. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor?
You must have heard Dan.
Recording stopped.
He's not feeling very well.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Oh, I got 600 kids in 3.5 days, or 4 days. Twice.
It's a good meeting.
It's gonna be busy.
That was good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
It's great to see the
Thank
game.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you.
I will say this, could we go, remember I emailed you that map? Or I put, you were able to put the map up
Thanks for everybody showing up.
Oh, earlier, yeah.
from last week? Remember that?
I'm reaching up here for our ready to let go of the airplane.
I understand.
It was not fun
Do you want me to send you the AI?
Well,
Yeah,
No, no,
be
no.
great.
No, it's not in my email.
Oh, okay.
and working with
I
my
did?
partner.
Okay.
I know this will come
I'm
as
trying
a
to see, do you remember?
surprise,
It was last week.
You good, good?
though.
Okay, all right.
I'll be back on Monday.
Okay, sounds good. Maybe we'll just do it on Monday then. I should have it by then. All the stuff.
Yeah, don't break your neck.
No, but I'm getting some pressure to get it sorted.
Fair enough.
I'm going to Sun
You know how it
Valley.
goes.
I explained to the manager, we're actually working through it.
Yeah,
That's the biggest part.
yeah.
We're actually
We went
trying
to the
to
World
find a
Cup
remedy.
in
We would never
as
just
Junior
ignore it,
National Ski Team
you know.
coaches.
That's why I'm not
yeah.
putting you
Fear and loathing in
higher than a
Aspen.
2.
Okay, sounds good, appreciate it.
Y'all be starting, on those pickleball courts next week? I can play?
You wanna get out there, get in the machine and start pushing dirt around, I bet we'll probably put you to work.
I will.
Browser.
I actually built one at my house,
Yeah.
on the outside,
Yeah.
and I've got one inside.